Hi there, and welcome to another version of the Tuesday Toolbox. I will be working with the Simply Scored scoring board to make a box card today. The scoring board has grooves every 1/8 of an inch. Now my scoring board is placed upside down so that you can see what we're working with. You're going to start with a whole sheet of cardstock, 8.5 by 11. All of the dimensions for the score lines that I'm putting on are going to be on my blog, so you can check there for the complete details. I don't want you to be worried about that part while you're watching this video. The important part I find with good scoring is that you want to keep your stylus as parallel to the line that you're scoring as possible. Now this is a little different because I am doing it upside down so that you can see, but you'll notice that I am keeping that stylus as perpendicular as possible. Not perpendicular, parallel, I'm sorry. Parallel to the score line that I'm doing. If you tilt it to the side like a pin, like if you were holding a pin, I find that it causes it to slip out of the track and it just doesn't score as smoothly. So I'm putting on the diagonal plate here. The key with using the diagonal plate, on the back there's an arrow that points up. That's your point to make sure that you have it going up to the top of your scoring board. Now I'm scoring in a diagonal here because that'll help the sides of my box fold in. When you're done, you should have a pyramid on your side, not a V. If you have a V, you've scored in the wrong direction. And you just use the easiest way to remember that is you start scoring at the half part of the card stock when you're making that V. Now I'm just using my bone folder and I'm going through and I'm creasing all of those score lines just so that when we go to put the card together, the box together, it'll fold easier. Now this part's going to go pretty quick and I'm very sorry for that. This video was going to be an hour long and nobody wants to watch anyone make a card for an hour. I'm trimming out all 4 corners and then you cut up to the next score line to create the tab. Now when you cut your tab, you want to notch out that little bit in between, and you don't need to notch out a lot. Usually how I judge how much to notch out, I will use the score line. Actually, that's what I cut out. I will cut out the score line, and that gives me just enough of a notch so that the tab folds in easier. So it creates room for the box to lay flat. You want to use sticky strip for this, and you apply the sticky strip to the back of the card tab because the tab is going to go on the inside just like that. So it's the inside of the box, and I do them one at a time because sticky strip, once it sticks, so there's not a lot of forgiveness if it accidentally sticks where you don't want it to. Once you have it together and you have it laid flat, I set a book on top of it for it to get flattened. Here we are working with the side panels. Again, I'm going to have all the panels on my blog, so don't worry about the measurements. The colors we're working with here are Cherry Cobbler and then Designer Paper and Berry Vanilla. We're just applying them all together, and we're going to apply them to the front there. Here I am stamping the leaves. I already have the three that I need, but I'll be making more than one of these cards, and so I'm using the Blossom stamp and I'll be using the Blossom punch to punch the petals for my flower, my poinsettia. So I have it on the craft mat and I just put them all together by layering them one at a time onto that circle of Berry Vanilla that you saw me punch. And there I have colored them with a little bit of the Cherry Cobbler Dazzling Details. These center bits for the flower, I stamped in more mustard and I punched them out with the flower shape from the Itty Bitty Punch Pack. And I'm just using my stylus to cup them. I have them on the foam mat, and when you press in and use that circular motion, it will cause the flower to cup up. I start out with the big end to start with the initial shape, and then I go in with the little end and put that pressure right on the center to get them nice and cupped. I'll just be using my Tombow and some tweezers to place them on the poinsettia, and then my stylus and the tweezers to smush them together how I want them to look on the card. And then a little bit of the clear dazzling details. I punched a small tag with my tag punch, and I'm using 2 stamps from the Jolly Bingo bits, the wreath and the little birdie. I punched the wreath out with the 1-inch circle punch, and I'm just cutting the little cardinal, and I'm going to pop him up on the wreath with just a little tiny piece of dimensional that I'll cut from the edge, just like that. And then once I have the ribbon detail on here, I will go back and add some of that, the dazzling details in the cherry cobbler, to the tag as well. Just using the stitched gumball green satin ribbon to create the tag, and then I'm going to tie a piece of the cherry cobbler baker's twine around that. Again, just another little layer of detail. And there's the cherry cobbler. Now I'm going to use the heat tool to set this fast, and I cut that out because you didn't really need to see that. You can set it aside to let it dry, but I wanted to move on with the video, so I used the heat tool to set it, and it works quite quickly and quite well. So I'm just measuring up. You can see there almost to the halfway point of the card, and that's so that I can use that as a guide to where I'm going to put my ribbon. I find ribbon is the best way to keep this closed, but you can't really tape the ribbon down because the card needs to open. There needs to be movement. So I found the best way to do this is to punch a hole in both sides and use ribbon that way, and the hole will keep the ribbon from sliding out and getting lost and separated. Now I measured a 1/2 inch in on both sides, and that's why I used my rulers to make sure that it would line up. Again, with the gumball green stitch satin ribbon, just going in through the holes. I measure out about a card width and a half. Gives me enough to tie a decent bow, and of course the person who I give this to might not be as accomplished a bow tire, and so I always like to leave extra ribbon on this card so that whoever gets it doesn't feel like they need to be a champion bow tire to get it back together prettily. I really like this card. It's a great gift card holder. You can put a gift card in there along with your message. You can put little treats. You know, as long as it's not too bulky, you can put just about anything you want in that little box. It works really, really well. Just trimming my the flag ends. Now I'm going to attach the front, the poinsettia, with dimensionals. You want to make sure that you only put dimensionals on half of the embellishment, because if you put dimensionals on all of it, the part that overhangs onto the other side of the card will stick and then the card won't open. So you want to make sure you only put dimensionals on half, and then that way you don't get any onto the side where the bow is tied and the card will open. So I kept my dimensionals to the one side on where there's no bow. And then I will use dimensionals to pop up our little tag. And there, that's the card. I hope you really enjoy it. I hope you give it a try. It really isn't that difficult. Like I said, all the measurements are on my blog, and you can find out how to make this card there. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and or email me, and I will be happy to answer. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.